You scroll your phone, you skim headlines, you undo your seatbelt as another breaking news alert screams for your attention. But what if I told you that every swipe, every alert, every viral post is part of a battlefield few of us even recognize? That battlefield now has a name: the noise of war, how to fight disinformation and find the truth when everything is lying to you. A new book by our guest today, national security correspondent J.J. Green. Hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. This is E&P Reports, our weekly vodcast series that explores the people, organizations, and issues shaping the evolving news publishing industry with candid conversations, bold ideas, and insights that matter to media leaders. J.J. Green is the national security correspondent for WTOP Radio in D.C. That's where I started in radio myself, J.J. I think we were just discussing that at WEAM in Arlington. That goes way back. If you, I even knew Scott Shannon. I don't know if that name rings a bell. He was.
Yes, it does.
Let's just not do the show. Let's just discuss radio back in the 80s in D.C. and have no. JJ, you report daily on national security intelligence, foreign policy, terrorism, and cyber developments, and provides on-air analysis. You got more than 30 years of journalistic experience, except I look old and you look young. And you've reported from war zones in more than 50 countries, numerous journalism awards, and an honorary doctorate for your work and insights into national security and global affairs. JJ, welcome to the program. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Mike. It's such a pleasure to talk to you, and specifically considering the fact that I was a radio DJ myself. That's how I actually got into the business back in the 80s. And, it's hard to find people who remember that era and records, vinyl records.
Do you still have the disc jockey stress dream like I do, where you're like in a studio and you can't find the music or something? Does that happen to you too or not?
It's more like nightmares, because the place that I worked at was a 500-watt daytime radio station, wind up, and it was in an old CCC camp in Durham, North Carolina, and there was no heat in there. And I can remember one morning it was 9 degrees, and I'm sitting there behind the microphone at the controls with a thick quilt over my lap, shuddering and shivering. But I was young, I was dumb, and it was fun.
Does your wife or partner or whoever ever ask you to talk up records when you're driving, when you hear an intro time and you start going, good morning, 19 after 7, 7:19, 35 degrees outside? Do you ever do that or not?
No, and I think a part of it has to do with the fact that based on the time we're living in and the kind of work I'm in now, people hear enough of my voice. So they don't need to hear any extra.
We've had a nice jovial opening, but we got to get down to business. Stay with us. We're going to unpack how disinformation really works, why it's more dangerous than ever, and what every journalist from local beat reporter to national editor needs to do to push back. Stick around. We'll be right back with JJ.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts: reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
And now, through the CFINR Annual Journalism Awards, that mission is gaining momentum. With 6 categories and $150,000 in prizes, the awards recognize impartial and objective reporting rooted in facts, not spin. Winners will be honored at the 3rd Annual Awards Ceremony in Washington, D.C., joining a growing community committed to restoring trust in journalism. There's no entry fee, and submissions are open now through February 16th. Enter today at cfinr.org/award-entry and be part of the movement to rebuild trust one story at a time.
The Noise War, how to fight disinformation and find the truth when everyone is lying to you, is already being called, quote, a field manual for the century of information warfare we are living through right now. JJ, you've spent 2 decades reporting from conflict zones, national security beats. What first alerted you to the idea that misinformation and disinformation were not fringe problems, but important issues we have to address today, sir?
Well, thanks again, Mike, for having me. It was in March of last year when, things got turned upside down with journalists in Washington. The way things work and the way things are, have been for many years for us was changing. I knew that disinformation was out there. I knew that disinformation is more than just words that are twisted. It's an actual lifestyle. And I realized just how important journalists were, in that fight against disinformation years and years ago because of what's taken place in Russia and China and North Korea and other places. But it was October 15th of last year when I had to walk out of the Pentagon, when I had to leave the Pentagon and leave my press credentials behind, or either that or sign a memo saying I'll only report whatever the Pentagon clears and says I can. It was at that point that I realized disinformation was no longer what I knew it to be, sort of at arm's length, if you will. It was something that I was caught up in, like so many dozens of other journalists who are far better than I am that left the Pentagon. We were caught up in it. And it was at that point I realized this is an existential situation for journalism, not just around the world, but also here in the US. And it wasn't because of the Trump administration. It was because of this pattern that the US, this road that all the administrations in the US had walked down for many years. And that is basically using journalists um, to do whatever it was they wanted them to do, making information available to some, not to others, um, sort of doing the spin thing. I mean, it's become a joke, the spin doctors and all that. This was when I realized, okay, it's time to do something.
Okay, I want to get into your syntax. You use the term noise war, and you use a lot of warfare terms. Can you define it clearly for this audience? What distinguishes noise from disinformation from deliberate campaigns of influence? What is a noise war?
Okay, disinformation is it's the new WMD. It's invisible, it's instantaneous, and it's everywhere all at once. It not only twists facts, but it corrodes trust, and it also fractures nations, countries. I mean, entire countries are people all over entire countries are beginning to embrace disinformation as a lifestyle and as a pattern for to achieve their objectives. And influencing, and we have a chapter on that in the book. I spoke with a German influencer who was approached by Russian intelligence during the COVID pandemic here in the U.S., and they offered to pay him lots of money if he would put out some post that essentially said the vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines were killing people. That to me is an influence campaign. The difference between that and straight up disinformation is it's something that it's pernicious. It's ubiquitous now. It's all over the place, and it's really hard to understand what it is until you know the history of it and why it exists. So it's different from influence campaigns, which politicians have done for many, many years. This disinformation kills people. I mean, it literally can kill people. And it's certainly a situation where it preys on people not being plugged in. And what it really does, Mike, is disinformation, true disinformation, is not designed to persuade you one way or the other. It's designed to make you give up trying to figure out what's
Right.
going on, exhausted with all of the chaos. And that's the reason why I call it a war, because that's exactly what it is. It's a war for your mind.
So when you add the term flood the zone in your book, that's when it just comes at you like a fire hose. Is that what you're trying to say? And it just keeps coming at you and keeps coming at you to the point where you just want to give up. Is that the main theme of
Yep.
this flood zone tactic?
That's the objective, and it's in the book. You see it. It's you know, Hitler did it with Goebbels back in World War II. You know, Joseph Stalin did it in the early edges of the Cold War. Duterte in the Philippines did it not that long ago with his trolls. And you know, you have so many different instances where you can see how people use that tactic. And Steve Bannon, who's a political operative, put it probably best. He gave it the name. He said basically the media is the problem. And he was talking politically, and he said what you do to deal with that problem is you flood the zone with
Right.
beep. I'm not going to say that word, but flooding the zone is absolutely that. A fire hose, a stream, it's just like a person getting hit with a fire hose from a fire truck or something of that nature. It's designed to completely immobilize you. And this, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, it's so dangerous because what it does is it's designed to exhaust you, trying
Totally.
to figure out and what they do in the process, those that practice this effectively, what they do is they'll take both sides, you know, they'll give you things from both sides and get you thinking, arguing, bickering, even engaging in physical confrontations to try to figure it out. And then at some point, some just say, you know what, forget it. They throw their hands up and just walk away.
Walk away. Okay, so let's bring this down to the street now, to our newsrooms, to our news publishers and editors and reporters that listen to this program. Your book offers some toolkits, actionable strategies. What are give me three things that any newsroom or journalist should do now to build defenses against this coordinated war effort of disinformation?
Well, the first thing they should do is to make sure that they understand what disinformation is and where it comes from and how it impacts us people physically, and you know how it's designed to attack people. That's the first thing, is to understand that disinformation is not just somebody twisting words. It's a whole lifestyle. I mean, and that's, you know, it's the foundation of disinformation are organizations and people who specialize in lies. That's the foundation. The second thing is something called pre-bunking. We have these debunking efforts where we go out and we try to knock down rumors and disinformation. And what we actually end up doing is we pump oxygen into it. We actually give the lie more life, you know? So the second thing I suggest is we have to pay attention to the environment that we're in and go out, and if we understand or think that disinformation wave may be coming from something or someone, is to prep the audience for it and tell them this may be coming. Here's some things to think about so you understand, so you know what the truth is. Here are some details about this organization or this individual, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think the third thing, which is really important, is to recognize that disinformation is never going to die. It's always going to be with us.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is consistently, constantly, daily think about how we're going to navigate when we're hit by a disinformation storm. You know, what's the first thing you do if disinformation hits your news wires, hits your news desk? One of your reporters comes in with something of that nature, or you, God forbid, end up being the victim of a disinformation campaign. What are you going to do? Think through some strategies before it happens. And if one more thing, if I may, if you'll allow me, just briefly, is one of the most important parts about this whole process of fighting disinformation is the Article 5 approach. The same thing that NATO does when one country is attacked, they have this thing called Article 5. That means one country's attacked, all of the countries will come to their rescue. So if one journalistic organization or journalist is attacked, all journalists should come to their aid wherever they are in the world.
Well, your book is almost like Sun Tzu's Art of War for journalism. I hope you don't mind the
No,
analogy.
I do not at all. I take it. I'm very proud and happy that you put it in that esteemed
Because it goes
category.
back
Thank
to
you
some
so much.
basics. So now that we have this war stance, this is 2026. This is an election year. Is the battle just going to get worse as we get closer to midterms? I'm asking you to forecast that now. Are we going to just get hit so hard as journalists that we'll have trouble bringing truth to power?
So let me put it to you this way. Being a practicing journalist right now, I need to be careful about what I say and how I say what I say, but also to be truthful, be honest about it. As I mentioned a few moments ago, disinformation is not going to go anywhere. Right now, one of the real problems that we have is the sophistication of disinformation and the tools that make it sophisticated. There's deep fakes. There's AI, that's out there that can take something very simple that's wrong, and whether it's deliberate or not, and just blast it to the whole world in a few minutes. The technology is the real problem that we have to worry about right now. The people, whether it's the politicians on the right, the left, and the middle, all of them are engaged and involved in some way of trying to persuade and spin the public. And the problem is there are many people in the middle of the politicians and the recipients of that information whose job it is to make sure that everything that is said and everything that is done in such a way that it gets them the advantage. That's what I think is going to happen. And it's already happening. You see people who don't normally engage in, information warfare doing it. And some politicians which have in the past been just focused on the issues now recognize they don't have an option anymore. In order to keep up, you got to practice, you got to play the game, you got to do it. And so they're starting to do it. The problem is, truth is going to be the victim as well as people.
All right, JJ, got to bring this thing home. I'm accused a lot of being Pollyanna. I believe that journalism will be here free and unfettered, just like our founders 250 years ago envisioned, as part of this Madisonian democracy. And I know the ship will be righted. I feel that in my bones, but so many others in our industry today are just giving up. And we've had pundits on this show begging people to work through those slap suits. Keep forcing yourself through to do your job. Don't take the easy road, take the hard road. Are you Pollyanna still? I mean, you're in the midst of this, if I may use your term, war. How do you wake up in the morning? How do you see the future of our jobs as part of this ecosystem we work in?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Mike. I am in that Pollyannish group, and but I'm doing that with a very focused and a very real objective. It was the 25th of October last year that I woke up 3 o'clock in the morning, 10 days after the Pentagon situation, and realized, oh my God, I can lose everything, everything that I've worked for, and this could be it. If this goes badly, I may never have the opportunity to achieve, what it is that I set out to achieve many years ago. So I have to get up and get working. 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, marched myself out of the bed, out of the bedroom, down to the office, and got busy working on this book, in part because of the fact that I believe so deeply, exactly what you said, that we have to work right now as hard as we can to make sure that there is a tomorrow, because, there will be, the sun will come up, but what will we see when it comes up if we don't do anything? If we just kind of sit back and just absorb everything and just hope for the best? You know, So bottom line is, if you'll allow me, I'll just put it this way. This book that I've written embodies everything, my heart and soul, when it comes to this situation. And it's not a book that's a nice, glitzy, glamorous looking book. It's a really, I call it affectionately the ugly duckling. It's yellow and it's just not very attractive to look at, but that's the objective. I don't want to compete with those glitzy thrillers that are on people's shelves. It's not a book for the shelf. It's not a book you put your feet up with to read for an escape. It's a book that you take and you lace up your boots with that book, you stick it in your knapsack, your briefcase, your backpack, or your bag or whatever, and you hit the streets and you start working using that, because all of us are going to have to fight for tomorrow's future for journalism, because what we've been looking at happening in foreign countries for years and years and years is home, right here.
The book is called The Noise of War: How to Fight Disinformation and Find the Truth When Everything is Lying to You. Its author is J.J. Green, the national security correspondent for WTOP Radio, 30 years in the game, reported from war zones in more than 50 countries. And JJ, I would, if I may use that analogy again, possibly the Sun Tzu of the modern age of journalism.
Oh my gosh, Mike, what you have done, I don't know what you've done right here and right now, but it certainly makes me feel good about what we've done, because, I hope other people embrace it the way you have. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.